Alabama takes on South Carolina this weekend, and Joe, what you have continuously called this week, the get right week. Well, if there is a team that I think is going to do that this week, it is Alabama. I will agree with you. Listen, man, I think Alabama is going to get back on the right path this week versus South Carolina.
Yeah, more importantly, I mean, hell, Ole Miss literally just did this. I mean, this is I don't really care.
Is South Carolina the get right game? Is that what
no,
you're saying?
they quite literally are turning into that because LSU got their feet back underneath them. They didn't play perfectly. There were a couple of issues, but they got their win. They got their feet underneath them. They're building a little confidence week by week. And then we see Ole Miss play as good as they did in the first half, and now their offense, there's confidence for Jackson Dart and an understanding of what they need to do to succeed. Now here we are. And I got to come back to the point that I made last week, Blake. Their offensive line, it's the worst in the country. There's no debate there. One of their tackles is very young, and he's impressive, and he's been regarded as one of the top freshmen. But outside of that, statistically, they are allowing 133rd. They're 133rd in tackles for loss allowed with 9.2 per game. That's horrendous. And they're 133rd in sacks allowed with 4.4 per game. That is also horrendous. They're not doing a very good job. And this is a situation where you're South Carolina dealing with an offensive line, dealing with a defensive line that played poorly last week. They got pushed around last week. This week of practice, like I just said with Tennessee, it's going to be hell for them. Their intent is going to be to come out, get as many sacks as tackles for loss as possible. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to be downhill. This needs to be a confidence-building moment for this defense where it sounds like there is a huge disconnect between Womack and some of his top players. I think that Tim Keenan, I think that LT Overton, I think that those guys are going to have big, big games. That huge talent disparity is what's going to help Alabama win this game pretty handedly.
I'm not going to go there with you on the defense because they're 100. You talked about the bad statistics there. If we're going to go with that, South Carolina is 121st in the country on third down offense, and they've been out there a lot, Joe, and they've still had a top 22 defense. I mean, they only get the most that they've given up, okay, in fairness. I mean, LSU had 128 rushing yards, okay. And then I look at Ole Miss, who, by the way, Joe, just throwing this out there, they threw the ball once in the fourth quarter. They threw the ball 8 times in the second quarter. Dart was 2 of 8 in the second half throwing the football. I mean, Henry Parrish did not get over 100 yards. He was 21 carries, 81 yards. I get what you're saying. I still think they're pretty good defensively. I mean,
I know. Yeah, I don't disagree with that aspect of things. Yeah, but that was why I led with and my main take is the offensive line issues is kind of what has helped these teams get right.
The safety, Joe. Look, I know I'm not a draft guy. Okay, I never pretend to be one. I know that you do a lot of draft stuff. This kid Kilgore, the safety. All right, look, he's going to be the guy when you hear from NFL scouts in 3 months. You're gonna be like, hey man, yeah, this kid actually. I'm telling you, you better keep your eyes on him. However, I say all that to fluff up South Carolina. Joe, I do wonder if they're going to try some different things schematically, defensively. You know, Brooks Austin had the viral clip today that's gotten over 1 million impressions on the film breakdown of Alabama. Joe, here's the only thing. I don't trust in Shane Beamer. Clark Lee's a really good coach, and they got a really good staff. Joe, but they schemed him up. Like, if you go and look at that, they got schemed up. And I think they have had issues defensively. What I do look at Alabama, by the way, I got absolutely ridiculed about this, and you remember this during the offseason. I came in here and said, I don't know if their D-line, okay, is as good as some are making it out to be. Joe, they're 52nd or 54th in the country in run defense. Spare me in these short situations that they've been able to convert in the running game. Now, I say all that, and you bring up the illustrious point about this South Carolina offensive line being dead last in the SEC in statistical category in college football.
In the country, not the SEC.
Right. And in the country, this isn't the game that I get to understand or test what Bama's doing on defense. It's not. They're not going to. This is not the game that this happens. Like, Bama's going to get tested down the line. They're going to play somebody down the line where they get tested more. Maybe it's LSU in 4 weeks. I don't know what the game is. Joe, it's going to be a little bit close early, maybe first quarter, maybe midway through the first half here or into the second quarter, excuse me. But I'm with you. I do think Alabama gets right. But, Joe, there are some chinks in this armor that we've seen. And it's not just chinks in the armor. Joe, look at the last 6 quarters. Like, look how many points they've given up the last 6 quarters. I know that this offense is not good. I get that. I'm with you. 100% agree that South Carolina. But is this a game that I learn anything about Bama?
Well, I don't think you learn anything about Bama. What Bama takes away from this more is the ability to get out of this game win-handedly and feel better about yourself going through the remaining stretch of the season. You're not coming out of an upset loss against Vandy to show up and play Texas or to play LSU. You get the opportunity to look at what issues showed up on film against Vandy and to work on them. Now, I will say this. What has been a huge problem to this point, I'm talking about the USF game and I'm talking about the Vanderbilt game. Mobile quarterbacks who are used effectively and aggressively in the run game have caused some serious headaches for this defense.
Because they're playing.
Lenore Sellers has been a great runner.
All across the board. And when they take off, I mean, go look at Brooks Austin's breakdown. Did you see it today?
I didn't catch it now.
Joe, they didn't get out. They didn't get outplayed. I'm now convinced of it. When he goes and he broke it down, brother, schematically, they got picked apart. Bad. Very bad. Yeah. And so to your point, this is a third straight, I say 3 of the last 4 games that you play where you got a mobile quarterback.
And they have to – this is when I'm talking about like working through the issues, you've had these problems with trying to tackle these guys, and they've completely dominated you and allowed opposing teams hang in the game and stick within a striking distance that – USF, it was close till the fourth quarter, and then you lost to Vanderbilt because they just kept hanging around. Not like they were putting up huge chunk plays. If you could come into this game and you can corral Lenore Sellers, you can play a lot stronger defense, you could feel a little bit better after this game. But there's a huge, huge issue with that needs to be resolved this week. Otherwise, they could be on upset watch again. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your #1 source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. Bet online, where the game starts.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. I think they're going to roll. But I think
they're going to roll. But like,
I think it's like
if Lenore Sellers is a huge game and he's run the same way that Pavia did. I mean, can we really say that so confidently when we said that they were going to roll against Vanderbilt?
Well, I think it's going to be 34-10. Like if I had to put a score prediction on it, that's about what I'd say. I just look. Here's how I fully believe it. I think South Carolina defensively, Joe, but look at the team and the offenses that they've gone up against so far this year. For what it's worth, man, I mean, they're not getting any help from their guys on offense. I mean, they did get 2 pick sixes. Just ironically, they got brought back. I mean, look what they did last week. I mean, Joe, it's not their fault that they had short fields to work with. Think about this. 3 drives in the first half started of the 35 or better for the opposite opponent. Like the teams only had to go 35 yards or 10 yards to get in the red zone. Like, and they still were holding on. They can present issues for you. Don't get this twisted. Like, I'm not coming out here because you lost to Vandy and telling you this. Dude, defensively, they got dudes, man. They got dudes everywhere. Now, I don't want Dylan Stewart shooting a gun at anybody again. I think that's foolish and stupid. Mm-hmm. Joe, they got dudes, man. I'm telling you. I know I'm getting labeled a crazy person in talking about them. We talked about them a lot already earlier this year. Bullshit. That defense is good. Joe, I'm gonna throw this at you. You ready?
Okay.
They don't have the playmakers like this, but I do wonder if South Carolina had an offense that was like anywhere capable of throwing the ball down the field, what they'd be. Like, I really do believe that. Like, because they've just been playing so well defensively.
Well, I mean, let's expound upon that. If their offensive line was like 70th, 100th. Actually, no, 100th is not enough of a rise. If they were like 80th, how much more competitive they would be.
Think about this. No other team in the SEC has more run attempts on them based off the number of snaps that they've played.
More run attempts on them?
Yeah, because they've played more snaps than any defense in the SEC so far.
Oh, yeah, and that's why they've given up so many points, but they still lead most categories in terms of pressures, sacks, tackles for loss, all those things. Like that,
right.
They are a good unit, and there's a lot of guys on that defense that have just been general risers in the draft space. Like TJ Sanders has been phenomenal.
This Kilgore kid, I'm going to keep telling you.
I don't know enough about him.
Well, and here's another thing. If I'm Bama, I know we're going long on this. You know what I want to see this week? Give Jam Miller the football.
Yeah.
Run.
Yes. Yeah. They got away from that. They got away from that last week.
I should have started off this whole thing and saying that. Run the ball. Because they really need to.